What's up everybody, Adrian here, back with another video. This time we're going to look at an article talking about 6 horror villains who deserve to have their own stories told, that should get their own standalone film. So let's take a look at this article. So the first villain on the list is Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger was a child killer before he was buried alive by the parents who inhabit the fictional town of Springwood, Ohio. Something must have led Krueger to become the killer he was as a mortal, before ultimately becoming the nightmarish creature he is in Nightmare on Elm Street series. A character study would follow his whole life, showing what happened during his upbringing that led him to become a psychotic killer. The film could depict his murder and his reincarnation as a monster who stalks teens in their sleep. Even though Krueger is a heinous character, he's also witty and full of great quips. This personality trait would help a potential movie about a child killer feel much more digestible. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but didn't they try this in the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, which bombed? But they did show a backstory, like a flashback of Freddy Krueger when he was a janitor at a school, surrounded by children. They portrayed him as at first a child molester, and he, did stuff to the kids, and then the parents found out, and, they chased him into this, boiler room, and they, set him ablaze and all that. But then in the movie, there was, this twist where you find out the kids lied for some reason. I don't know why, because in the movie they portrayed that the kids really liked Freddy Krueger as a janitor. He would play with them and have fun. It wasn't any weird stuff, but the twist was that they lied and told their parents that Freddy Krueger did stuff to them, and then the parents ended up killing an innocent man. So when Freddy comes back in their dreams to kill the kids, it's because the kids lied. But I don't know if that's a good thing to humanize the villain. The next villain on the list is Pennywise. The sequel to the latest movie incarnation of It, it's hints that Pennywise had a human life before he became an ancient demon. In It Chapter 2, Beverly goes to her childhood home, which is now occupied by an elderly woman. There she finds an old-timey picture of a man at a circus who looks very similar to Pennywise. The elderly woman refers to the man in the picture as her father, and then she reveals herself to be a form of It. The photograph of Pennywise in human form, the indication that he had a family, could lead to a very captivating film. Pennywise has a frightening personality that bounces off the screen, his clownish innocence and whimsy hiding how diabolical he is. He is able to take many forms, so any origin story could show the creation of all these incarnations of It. The film would never be boring, as it revealed how and why those forms came to be. Now, I didn't see the current It movie or the sequel to it, but I did see the original, and I loved it, of course. And from what I remember, Pennywise was this demonic, supernatural thing that would feed on the fear of the children. So whatever the kid would be afraid of, that's what Pennywise would morph into, and he could change into anything. But he was from a different dimension. And if you read the book, but I never did, but I heard in the book that he's like an alien from a different dimension. And originally Stephen King was supposed to have Pennywise be this gigantic turtle in the universe with the planet on his back, or some crazy ridiculous form that he would take. Next on the list is Pinhead. Hellraiser series presents one of the most harrowing depictions of hell and demons of all time, but without Pinhead the film would not be as effective. That's true. The head symbiote, who is unleashed through a puzzle box, is deadly, sadistic, and powerful, but like Freddy Krueger, Pinhead used to be mortal. In the sequel Hellraiser 2, it is revealed that Pinhead was once a man named Elliot Spencer, who searched high and low for the ultimate pleasure and went too far. He was transformed into the bringer of pleasure and pain and the godfather of suffering. Spencer was a World War II captain, so a prequel from Pinhead's perspective could be a Hellraiser film with different demons and the innocent Spencer as the protagonist. The film could end with Spencer becoming Pinhead, allowing him to be a much better understood character. Now, I remember watching the classic film Hellraiser, and I think they did touch on this. They showed some creature in this house that this family moved in. He befriended a woman that I think was like a past lover, or he fell in love with her in the moment, and she would have to kill, and every time she would kill, more and more blood would form, and that would create the human form. And the movie, for its time, the special effects were amazing. Practical effects worked in the film and made it more scary and gruesome. As she would kill more and more of his body would, start to form. So you would see like first his veins, then his muscles, then the tendons. And the next villain on the list is Candyman, possibly the most sympathetic character on the list. Most horror movie killers hurt innocent people for their own enjoyment, but Candyman isn't exactly like that. If you summon him, he will most likely hurt you, but before being trapped in a mirror, he was a slave in the 1800s that was brutally murdered when he fell in love with a white woman. Candyman is almost like an angel of death. He appears and guides a person, and the person will ultimately seal their own fate. Even as the antagonist, Candyman is usually more likable than the average villain due to his intelligence and empathy. A movie from his perspective could be a fantasy thriller about the tragic character's life as a slave, his transformation into a boogeyman. I think this would be the perfect film for this time based on the culture that we're living in right now. And you could even have that guy from Key and Peele, the director from Get Out, directed, because he loves making far left films and pushing an agenda. So he's the perfect guy. I think he's even in talks of doing it. So I did see Candyman when I was a kid. I just don't remember. Do remember the most famous iconic scene where you gotta stand in front of a mirror and say his name 3 times. Candyman, Candyman, Candyman. And then he would appear. I think it would be the most likely film considering the culture we're in now. Next on the list is The Tall Man from Phantasm. What makes the film so memorable is the lead antagonist, The Tall Man. The Tall Man is a worldly mortician who turns the dead into his minions and kills people with flying metal balls with blades attached. That is actually true if you ever saw the film. The Tall Man was once a humble mortal mortician, Jebediah Morningside, who became obsessed with any sort of connection between our world and the world of the dead. After doing much research, Jebediah was able to create a machine that allowed him to travel through space and time. Upon returning from the unknown place the machine brought him, Jebediah was not the mortal man he once was, but the nefarious being known as the Tall Man, a story that further develops into Jebediah's original motivations for exploring life and death in his continued existence as the Tall Man would be quite a film experience. I do remember seeing this film once, but it was a very long time ago. But the Tall Man definitely was a standout in the movie. You definitely remembered him in the iconic scene where the kid would wake up in his bed and he would look up and you would see the Tall Man standing over him, and then the camera would pull back and he's in a graveyard and the Tall Man is laughing maniacally over him, and the kid's his soul's gonna be taken back to hell. So if you haven't seen the film, it's a little dated because it was in the 70s. It's a mix of horror, supernatural, steampunk, technology type like that. So it's a good mesh. Definitely check it out. And finally, the list concludes with Art the Clown. One of the most horrifying clowns of all time, Art the Clown, shocked and horrified viewers in 2016 Gorefest Terrifier. Art the Clown has the least amount of backstory of all the characters on the list. He is so devilish and he needs his lore explained. The only thing that's evident about Art is he is a demon of some sort, hell-bent on destroying any living thing in his path. Art does not play by slasher rules and is not your average villain. He shoots people point blank with a gun and leaves no real final girl. There's also seems to be several creatures that inhabit the world that Art lives in. A movie that shows where Art came from, if he's ever been human, and what drove him to his current circumstances while explaining on his bizarre world around him would be captivating. I agree. The second person on this list, other than Candyman, that I think that they should definitely have a standalone film is Art the Clown. I didn't see the film, but I did listen to a lot of reviews, and I did watch the trailer, and oh my god, I could barely get through the trailer because it is so gory and bloody. I can't even explain to you how horrific and gory it is. From what I heard from the reviews, is there is no story. Like, the story stinks, the character development stinks. It's just Art the Clown. He's just killing people in gruesome, horrific, bloody ways. If you had a great backstory with the gore, then it would be like a perfect film. So let me know in the comments if you've seen this film and if you made it through it. So in conclusion, based on this article, it's good if you want to expand on their backstories, but don't do it too much. Because the thing with horror movie villains is it's good to have mystery. Less is more. It's not always good to know every little detail about the villain. It's not good to humanize him, to make him relatable to you, because if you do that, he's not as scary. The thing that makes a horror movie villain scary is you don't know too much about him. You don't know where he came from, why he's doing it. You know just enough of his motivation. You know just enough of his motivation, why he's doing what he's doing. If you start to look too deep into the character's backstory, in old school horror movie, a horror villain would have to dress up in an actual movie monster costume, but then when, like, in certain angles, he would like turn around and you would see the zipper of the costume, and then once you see the zipper, you can't unsee it, because before you're like, wow, this is a scary monster, but then you saw the zipper and you're like, it's just a guy in a costume. He's not as scary anymore. Whenever you try to humanize a character like they did in the remake of Halloween, where they showed Michael Myers as a little kid living in a horrific, like, household of hillbillies, and he had an abusive stepfather, but his mom was nice enough, but she was a stripper and she didn't really like pay attention to him, and he had like a jerk sister that would abuse him, and all her boyfriends would come over and abuse him, and he would kill his pets to show that he's like crazy and he's gonna grow up to be a serial killer. But you felt sorry for him, you humanized him, and he wasn't as scary. You felt bad for him. So when he would kill people, you would be like, well, they deserve to die because he had a horrible upbringing, he had a bad childhood, he was abused. So even though he like stabbed the guy 1,000 times and beheaded him, he deserved it. That's why you gotta be careful how to maneuver between showing too much backstory and just enough to keep you interested and keep you scared. It's great that they want to expand on existing horror villains. If they expanded the stories like they did in the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, where it was a character study, a deep character study mixed with Taxi Driver style movie. Imagine having like Taxi Driver style movie with Pennywise or Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, Candyman, the Tall Man, and Art the Clown. That would be very interesting to try. It's good that you want to expand on existing characters. Would be even better is to come up with brand new characters, brand new villains with brand new backstories, and start new franchises that way instead of reliving the past. So let me know in the comments what you think of this article. Which horror movie villains would you want to see a story expanded on and have a standalone movie? Until next time, catch you later.